with my dear friend Kayla. She's also a fellow medium. And today's conversation is going to be about her personal spiritual journey. She's going to be sharing with us how she got into mediumship, what led her to want to discover more, and how this path has been for her so far. So I'm really excited to have her come on the podcast and share all this beautiful experience with us. So please help me welcome Kayla to this episode. Hi, Kayla.
Hi, I'm so excited for this. I'm just so proud of you. Like, you are doing the work. You are getting out here and you are sharing all of this information, which is just incredible. Incredible. You're killing it, girl.
Right back at you because I know you are out there doing your own thing and it's
Right.
incredible, which is why I'm so grateful that you decided to come on the podcast and share everything with us. So I'm going to start from the very beginning because there are many of those that are going to be watching this that have never met you. And so I would like to have you do a quick little intro. I know it's a very hard thing to try to encapsulate someone into a quick 3 minute, 5 minute intro. But if
Ah,
you can give us just a little bit of who you are and what led you to this path of mediumship, that would be amazing.
so I was born and raised and still live in the Midwest. So I live in Illinois, just kind of right in the middle. After thinking about the questions and everything, like to sum myself up, I really just feel like I'm an ordinary human having extraordinary experiences. I just want to do good in the world. I just want to heal and heal myself in the process. And so that is kind of how I've come to really dive into mediumship and, which probably get into this, but also causes you to do the shadow work and, just really get to know who I am so that I can meet people where they are and do it in a productive, positive, healing type of way. So yeah, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. I do have a 9 to 5 job. I wish one day I could be doing, mediumship full time or maybe part time. Long term goals are definitely to cut back on the 9 to 5, like I said, and really focus more on mediumship. But my wife and I also want to get some land and just really get back to nature, And I think part of that is dealing our learning mediumship and learning how important nature is. And so yeah, it just feels right. So yeah.
I love that. How did you first get into mediumship? What was your life like before mediumship? And what was that pivotal shift that you went from regular life, let's say, to now discovering that there is this potential of connecting with those on the other side?
So from what I've learned and heard, a lot of people get into mediumship through traumatic experiences or, big loss. And I am no different. Mediumship has always been interesting to me. It's never been something that I've like, I love to hear the stories and things like that, but mediumship didn't become a thing for me until after I lost someone super important to me. And it's my dad, and my dad just had a light. He just had a light that when he left the physical world, I knew that there's no way he would have left my sister and I if he didn't have to, So that just kind of put a real pause on my life and was very hard to get through. But it's funny, it's like, at what point did I really open up to mediumship? And as silly as it sounds, I will always tell this story. I lost my dad in April of 22. That summer, I think it was July, NASA had the Hubble telescope come out with like the clearest pictures of the cosmos and the universe and all that stuff. And I remember, and I had also just had my child. So I lost my dad in April of 22. I had my daughter the next month, and that alone, losing somebody alone just makes you like pause and just like it, it forced me to be present, like big time. Um, which was it losing someone important to you really teaches you to be present, most importantly, I feel like. But anyways, the pictures that came out, the most clearest up to date pictures I was looking at one of those one day, and I don't know if you want to call it soul resonance or something clicked in me that I was just like, how am I looking at the universe right now? And I've got grief just all over me. You know, I've got grief for the world because of the state of the world. I just feel like it's on fire, and something clicked. And it was just something that I actually kind of take through to each one of my readings today, which is like, I almost always say, like, I want to leave you knowing that the four walls we put ourselves in, that's not it. Like, there's more to this. And it's just, I don't know, I just needed to see that picture at that right time, to just kind of flip everything on its head. And like, I've always been open to paranormal things. I've always loved ghost things. I've always laughed because growing up, I would always see John Edwards playing on the TV, and my mom would just upset. I mean, she thought he was the cutest thing ever, and he's a good looking dude. But like, it's always on the TV, you know. So she was very into that. Um, but yeah, it wasn't until I lost someone that was so important to me that I just had to figure out, where did he go? Like, there's no way that his spark just went out, you know. So
That's
yeah.
such a good point that you bring up. Sorry to interrupt, but I want to emphasize on that spark because I think that's what a lot of people feel, you know, when they lose someone close and they look either at their physical body and feel a sense like something is missing, something that was here previously is no longer there. And where did that spark, that feeling of who they were, where did that go?
Yeah, and I think, because of the timing of it, coming off of COVID, and just, like I said, the world being on fire, it feels like it's on fire, like, there's a level of grief there too. And so I was just like, you know, how can this be it? How can the 9 to 5 jobs, the hatred, the racism, the just everything that's going on, like, I something in me told me that it wasn't it. And I also feel like spirit has a really interesting way of working with you where you're at, you know, and just little bits here and there, little bits here and there. So it's like my bandwidth, I think, during that time, just being a brand new mom, like, my time was spent with podcast, or, you know, like, just little bites I could like, or little chunks I could bite off to really kind of like build a little baby foundation. A podcast that I attribute quite a bit to is, Simon Bowen. He's changed his podcast name, but it's Our Paranormal Afterlives. And I mean, he's got like 200 plus episodes. But what I really enjoyed about it was, he seems like a super kind individual, first off. He does past life regressions, which I've always been really interested in past lives. Like, I mean, I always wondered how a 3-year-old could remember his whole family and how he died and all of these facts about him that could be proven, but it's not the same brain. So that, like, I've always just been really intrigued by past lives and stuff like that. So that's kind of what drew me to his podcast. But what kind of kept me was, he would interview all kinds of authors, people, near death experience. I mean, kind of like what you're doing. You know, it's like, it gave me a place, a safe space, like my own safe space, to just be a sponge, you know, and just, if something doesn't resonate with me episode wise or information wise, you can switch it. But there was so much information and so many chances to just absorb all the information, but also get like book recommendations. And yeah, it helped me grow, you know. So it kind of set off this, wondering what my intuition is kind of what started it all, which made me take a class with someone who he's kind of well known. It wasn't really my favorite, but I did meet Courtney out of it, our friend Courtney. So it's funny how spirit just sets these things up, because now I can imagine being where I am without Courtney, you know? So, um, that was probably the winter of 22. that I took that class, and it was kind of my first dipping my toes and just trying to figure out kind of what else there is. Um, and I ended up setting up a practice with Courtney outside of class to practice. We were practicing clairvoyance, I think, and both just so nervous. And it was the weekend. It was late at night, and she started talking about evidential mediumship. And again, I knew about mediumship and losing my dad. I knew even more because of TikTok and stuff like that. Um, and she was in these Facebook groups for evidential mediumship. She was telling me about it and kind of, how it works. Like, evidential mediumship, you kind of have to have that sitter. You have to have that third piece to be able to like make sure that the information you're bringing through is evidential. And she goes, "Do you want to try it?" I was like, "I mean, you want me to try to talk to your dead people right here, right now?" And she's such a sweet human that she just offered this safe space to just try. And I have carried that over as well to like almost everybody that I work with, that if I can tell that they are genuinely interested in just figuring out mediumship, I always try to leave the practice with like, if you ever want to try, like, all it took was for, someone to offer me a very safe space to just leave my ego at the door, give what I got. And yeah, so we practiced. I proceeded to blow my mind repeatedly. I remember Courtney did not take notes for the first two people that I brought through, but by the third person I brought through, she pulled out a little sticky note and she wrote down all the others. She's like, "I have to give this to you because this way you know that you're actually getting stuff." And by the end of it, the whole sticky note was just like full of evidence. And I mean, I don't want to cuss on your podcast, and you're welcome to bleep it out, but every other like three things I brought through, I was like looking at, I just looked at Courtney. I was like, "What the fuck is happening? What?" So I mean, we ended up practicing for like probably 2 hours or something, but it was so late and I just wanted to go jump on my bed. I wanted to go wake my wife up and be like, "I don't know what just happened, but it blew my mind." And I've been hooked ever since.
That is incredible. It's probably something a lot of people who have practiced mediumship can recognize, that moment when you know and you sense that there is definitely some sort of communication going on. Because there's no way you could have brought that through or
Yes.
made that up, as a lot of us, in the beginning, it's like, am I making this
Yeah.
up?
Yeah.
And then it's like, how would I know that? There's no way that, whatever that spirit person was bringing through, you would just know out of the top of your head, even if you're a really good guesser.
Yeah, and when I try to offer these spaces for other people to try as well, I often think about the fact that spirit just gives you these moments of just incredible moments. I don't even know what else to call them. You can call them all kinds of things, but these just mind-blowing things, or experiences, I should say, like that one where it's like things were coming in so clear. I remember one of her loved ones, I think she passed in her sleep, but in my mind's eyes, because I was working on clairvoyance, I guess, I mean, to everyone listening, like I was just thinking I was shown a heart and it was just slowing down, slowing down. I've never seen that again like that in my practicing, but it was so clear, and it wasn't mine. It wasn't my thought. So I guess what I'm trying to say is I got that huge experience, that mind-blowing experience, just to get me started. And then anyone who works with spirit will know it goes like this, man.
You get hooked, and then it's like, now you're gonna have to do the work to
Yes,
make
now you
sure
work for it. Exactly. And that's
you can
exactly what it was
repeat.
like.
Exactly. I'm so glad you brought that up because one of my questions was going to be the ups and downs of developing your mediumship. But before we go there, up to that point, had you had any communication or feelings of dad wanting to come through? Was he already presenting himself? Were you feeling him? Can you give me a little detail?
Think that I was in a lot of grief. I mean, at some points I still am. But his passing was quite traumatic. It was quite unexpected. So, and I also don't think that my dad would have been into this type of work. And so, and it varies by each medium, but I think there is, because they retained their personality in spirit, that has, I think, a part to play sometimes in how they connect. So, he still, does he come through today? Yes, he does, and I'll be real honest with you, Alina, you were one of the very first people who brought him through, and you brought him through so clear in our development circle. Very few people had gotten that, like, you got this, like, real nature, Native American, like, just you were nailing his personality, but up until I actually, like, did that practice with Courtney, not really, and I think we tend to miss signs from our loved ones if we are just bogged down with grief. I think that plus, post baby, my hormones were like out of this world. So no, I think I struggled with it, with trying to get signs. And actually, I actually had to like stop because I realized I had built my mediumship at one point on grief, on simply wanting to connect with my dad. Because it's addicting to, talk to mediums and constantly want to get this connection established again. But it's like, it's really important to know that they've switched their state. They're no longer in the physical and they're in the spirit world. And, it's not healthy to depend so heavily on a medium because you have to live your life too. So I think I struggled a little bit with that. And I had to pause at some point. You go, like I said, you go through things like this. And so I would get so frustrated that I wasn't getting any extra evidence, or I wasn't, you know, I would do a few weeks and get name, dates, somewhat common things, but like as a developing medium, we're always wanting that, like, that golden nugget, that fresh evidence that you don't usually get. Like, you get career and, how they pass and stuff like that. But I just noticed a lot of frustration in me. And I think it was spirit saying, like, hey, let's make sure that we are doing this for the right reason. Let's make sure that we're healing while we're doing it. And then something just kind of clicked in me where it was like, it's not that I want to constantly connect to my dad, or my mom now, but evidential mediumship is so important to me because I know that I can connect with them. Can I hear their response, or can I, um, confirm that, like, he's standing right here? No, I can't. And that's because with evidential mediumship, I don't have a sitter to, like, confirm that information about their loved one. Do I know what my dad would probably respond to stuff? Yeah, and if I have that thought where I ask him something and I have this, like, perceived, like, response from him, chances are that would be his response, and that probably is his response. But I'll be real honest with you, I'm so skeptical of, even of myself. I think to a fault. Like, I think sometimes I'm too hard on myself. I'll knock a reading out of the park and then live on a high for 10 minutes. And then 15 minutes goes by and I'm like, I don't know. Was that real? Like, just, I don't know.
The skeptical medium syndrome.
Yes,
I
dude,
I've been there many times, and what I've learned, at least for myself, and looking, as you said, what part of me does that? And a lot of times is the ego, right? Either the ego is the one that wants to get it right, wants this and this type of evidence, has a certain structure, while a spirit is just like, all I want to do is connect with my loved one. Whatever it is that you need to say and do to allow that person to know that I am here, that I'm supporting them, that I have never gone anywhere. That's usually what spirit wants to communicate. So it's like, as long as you can get your ego out of the way enough, which takes practice. It
it
really
does.
does. Because as a human, ego is embedded with
She's
you know
here alive and well.
alive and well. And so we have to always be aware of, okay, am I stepping into my ego right now, or am I just being a clear and open channel? So it's that
Exactly.
constant checking in every reading, knowing that the nerves are part of the performance anxiety that comes along with doing mediumship, and yet knowing that you need to put that in the back burner because it's not about you, it's about that person that's in front of you plus their loved one who is in spirit, and you're just trying to be the best ambassador that you can be. It's hard.
It is so hard, and I often think, like I said, about kinda how crisp and clear that first experience was, and I think it's because I had no expectation.
Exactly. That's what I was going to ask you. What do you think is the thing that happens between that first reading when everything feels like it's just coming in so strongly and clear versus when, let's say, you were 1 year into development and then suddenly you're like, is this going backwards? What's
I
going
know, and
on?
you feel like that sometimes, especially at the beginning. Yeah, it can take you on a wild ride. Well, with part of my frustration, it definitely was, like, I realized how much joy mediumship brought me, and so I would just practice all the time. I mean, on lunch at work, I'm probably practicing. If I'm not painting, I'm practicing. But I realized that I didn't wanna waste anyone's time because I was also dealing with grief, and so I would get so angry that I think on the surface, I was in a good mood, I was doing all the things, and then I'd go to practice because I want to do what brings me joy, your girl's in therapy now. So it's like reach for things that bring you joy, and so I was trying to do that, but I what my vibrations were not where they needed to be, and so that kind of I felt like my hand was being slapped there too. So it's like you gotta pause, you gotta take care of yourself, you've gotta check in with yourself, or you can't do this work. Like you can still do the work, but I can't do it to the like what I feel like would be my fullest potential, best ethical, foot forward kind of thing. And that is really important to me. And it took me a little bit to like actually figure that out.
And there is a bit of a timing thing between when you lose someone and when you're ready to receive a full reading. And spirit knows that timing sometimes better than we
Yep.
know ourselves. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that you brought up the fact that you were in such deep grief about losing your dad that you needed that time to really reset yourself and make sure that you were doing the inner healing before you could continue down these experiences with spirit versus just burning yourself out.
Big time, big time. And like kind of going back to like the like signs I would get from dad or anything like that would I was listening to a podcast are these people I found on TikTok. Their podcast and I think they've stopped it. It was called I'm a Medium, Ask Me How. Have you heard of them? Matt and Dana? No. I was listening to their podcast one night and I was in my kitchen and they was about receiving signs from your loved ones and the frustration that happens when you don't. And they had said something that just really just got me. They said, when you're trying so hard to get these signs from your loved ones in spirit, they know that you're in pain, and so sometimes even though that's what we want these like loud, bold signs, your human side hurts, and so you have to have this balance of your human side and you're the soul inside the human, and we're all just souls live having this human experience. And as much as I want to, like I said, practice, do the work, that kind of thing, I still have to consider the fact that I'm still human, and I still have these like pockets of just immense emotion. So that just really, really resonated with me. Just the idea that they just know that they're there. Just know. It's hard to know when you don't necessarily fully believe it, which I know some sitters feel that way. I'm just always just know. Because I know that my loved ones are with me. And as you say it, it kind of feels a little bit better to just believe it, but more importantly, you have to consider your human side, and that's hard. That's hard.
And that's what they would want for us too. That's what your dad would want. knowing that you are in grief, that you are going through a lot emotionally, he would want
Yes.
you to know, "Listen, I know you wanna hear from me, but let's heal, let's do what we need to do here to get healthy." And usually, it's in those moments where there's a bit of the surrender, because the grief never really ends, right, Kayla? Like, when we lose someone that important to us, there's always that feeling that comes back of like, "Oh, I wish they were here." You know, I wish their physicality was here, and yet that knowing that at least in their consciousness already gives us a little reprise from the suffering, and when they can, they will send us the bird or the butterfly or the dream or whatever sign they can get in front of us that will spark us to be, I feel like that could be for my dad or my grandma or my, daughter or whoever. So leads me to my next question, which is, if you could go back to the beginning of your development, what would you tell yourself?
Just I would say thief is the comparison or no, how does that saying go? Comparison is the thief of joy. And because I'm almost always in this sponge state, like I'd love to listen to anyone talk about spirit. I mean, I don't have to agree with everything that you say, and I looked up the definition of discernment because I've heard that in the spiritual kind of like world quite a bit and the religious world, which I'm not quite yeah, I wouldn't consider myself religious, nor have I ever really been that religious, but discernment just kept kind of sticking out to me. So I looked it up in anticipation for this interview. Discernment is the ability to judge well, perceive clearly, and understand things that aren't obvious. And there's a whole bunch of more to that, but just trying to follow what felt right to me was really, really important. Really, really important. So I wish I could go back. Well, I don't because I know everything, this is all laid out for a reason. There's a reason that I got this big ol', life-changing experience, meaning the mediumship moment with Courtney. And then there's a reason I had to work so hard. There's a reason I had to have a good practice 1 week and then have 2 weeks of just like crappy practice. But also I was like going to therapy and, you know, being super present with my kid and it all happens for a reason. But I would say don't compare yourself to other people, 'cause as much as I'm a sponge and wanna hear everything, it's so easy to just be like, "Oh my gosh, that reading was so good. Why can't I do that? Why can't I mean, I've asked Courtney so many times, "How do you get that messaging part of your brain to open up and get these really strong messages?" And, like, I've had to learn that my spiritual journey, my this path that I'm on is mine, and also everyone does it different, like, everyone has their own experience, so, you know, to anyone listening to this and, like, wanting to, like, find a mentor or, anything like that, like, if you have someone sitting in front of you and they say, "This is the only way that this is done," or, "You do it this way and that's it," thank them for their time and move on because, like, that's just not true. That's just not true. I mean, how I link with spirit is gonna be different than how you link with spirit, but do I pick up tips and tricks and, ideas and stuff like that with every, like, interaction that I have or every moment of education that I have? Yeah, and that's the best part of this is it's always changing. Don't compare yourself. Your path is your path alone. But also I would be like, "Girl, it's about to go like this." You know?
Yeah,
And
prepare yourself for the roller coaster of a lifetime.
yeah, it's wild. It's, the highest highs. And then the lows are just human stuff, just life. Life just gets in the way.
My next question is about trust. We talk about trust a lot in mediumship. So tell me what mediumship has taught you about trust in yourself and in spirit.
Something that I always say, um, is if I show up for spirit, spirit will show up for me. And that's like the moment that there's a practice circle or somebody reaches out and they really want a reading and your ego just gets right in the way. And you're like, oh, I don't think I can. or I'm scared to try and fail. There have been so many moments of fine, I'll try. And then I proceed to just be mind blown. So it's like show up for spirit. Spirit will show up for you. And any moment that you are, and by spirit, I mean, I know we've said spirit quite a bit already, a moment with God, a moment with source, creator, and that moment a lot of times is just like going in, just having a moment of silence. I mean, we go, 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 go all the time. And it's so freaking hard to meditate. I don't know if you've gotten much better at it, but girl, it's hard. So like sitting in the power is really important. And that's something that I haven't given as much energy towards as I feel like I should. I've done better fairly recently, but like, sitting in the power is really important. And by sitting in the power, you're just sitting with yourself. You know, you're going in and you're just quieting your mind and you're just existing. And it may sound easy, but it's hard. It's hard to slow down in 2026. It's hard to put the phones down. It's hard to not constantly doom scroll, you know? We're just expected to be available like all the time. Even if someone is not actually expecting you to be available, you're expecting yourself to be available for these new stories and these and friends and family and stuff like that. So I had to trust that the moments that I do take to sit with myself and or to practice is worth it. If I have a reading that is like not what I would consider very good, I'm still doing the work. And I'm sure you will understand this when I say you get the basic information like name or just very kind of simple evidence, but nothing huge. The medium walks away from that being like, that was not that good. But the sitter walks away from it sometimes being like, oh my God, they got my mom, and they got her name and her birthday and how she died, and it's still big. So it's like just trusting that if you put towards the effort to work with spirit, spirit's going to do the same. In looking at the world and kind of the state that it's in right now, working with spirit has helped me trust that the good will win. There's so much good in this world, so much light, and I can't help but feel like there's more to what's going on right now. I just feel like we're kind of on the precipice of something that is like, I don't have any proof of this. I just there's just a feeling that I have where I feel like the cracks have to show and everything has got to get messy. But I feel like there's something bigger. Our awareness of how we are souls having this human experience. I think there's almost kind of like an awakening. There's a need to really understand that we are all one. You know, if God made us all, if Source, God, Spirit made us all, it's time for us to kind of realize like we're all one. You know, who cares if somebody has brown skin, or who cares if someone loves the same sex? I just feel like it's painful and we're not as far as I would, obviously would like to be, but like I trust that the greater good is going to prevail. Doing this work has definitely helped me at least have more hope. Our loved ones are right next to us, and I know, I just know that good is going to win. Like love love and light will win.
Mhm.
It always does.
Yeah, that's true.
But there's just such a, and then you go down the slippery slope of soul growth and soul contracts and um because people, so gonna jump around. I did a past life regression with Simon Bowen, and he does like a little consultation call, and I didn't know too much about it at the time, but I think I had a question of like, if you choose your life, which if you believe that, mindset, why would someone choose to be a Nazi from Germany? Why would someone choose that? And I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. And his response was something along the lines of like, through this work, I've kind of learned that those lives are chosen because somebody is the perpetrator and somebody is the victim. Like, there is learning that happens with every lifetime. Some lifetimes, if you choose to believe that, reincarnation is a thing, which I do, some days you're, a very, very mean individual and you learn kind of how you affect people. Another lifetime, you could be, maybe you're super, super meek and you can't actually, you know, get the things done that you want to get done. Like, it's an interesting way to think about life, and that, like, everybody's here to learn their own lessons. That's probably something else I've kind of learned from spirit that has helped me cope with just the crap that life throws at me. It's like everyone is here to learn their own lessons, and I just hope and pray that it brings us back to the fact that we're all one, We're all one with God. So, trust is a huge part of it. It's hard too. Sometimes you're like, "What the heck is going on?"
That's very true, and like you said, some we are our biggest skeptics in a sense. This type of work can be for service of other people, and it's worth all the ups and downs. It's worth all the questioning that happens along the way. And I think you mentioned something really beautiful. When you are in mediumship, you're also committing to your self healing, 'cause you understand that the more you heal yourself, the better the vessel you can become, the clearer vessel you can become.
Definitely. I also think that you had a question here that what was life like before mediumship
Yeah, yeah, please.
and career? Like, besides the fact that, like,
Sorry, I don't mean to laugh at that, but
no,
it's
you're
just
okay. Girl, but it kind of piggybacks off what I was just saying, where it's like, besides the fact that my dad was here one day and then he was not here the next, like, angrier in the sense that, like, why is person A in my life when person A has caused so much trauma or, caused so many issues? Well, now that I'm on the other side of,
Mhm,
this horrible situation with my dad, and I've done more work on myself and learn about, spirituality, because it's not just mediumship that has kind of like come into my life. I think learning about different aspects of
mhm.
spirituality has really just resonated with me. So I feel like before mediumship, I was angrier because I didn't understand why person A was here. Through learning about all this stuff, it's like, again, to soul packs.
Yeah.
Maybe we're in the same family and,
Mhm.
person A, w it doesn't even seem, like, logical or seem like this is actually something that could be true, but, like, I choose to believe that, like, our souls chose this setup. You didn't think that was nowhere on my radar before mediumship, so now I know person A is in my life to teach me forgiveness, is to teach me love. And I think now that like I said, I'm kind of on the other side of that, I'm able to kind of like step back a little bit. I think therapy helps, like, step back a little bit and be like, okay, so you know what? We say this all the time at work, but like, what else could be true? What, how else can I look at this situation and learn from it? Choose to go inside myself more to see my role in it. And that's difficult to do, and that takes a lot of effort, because being angrier or being confused and then kind of angry or nonchalant about it is a lot easier, instead of trying to actually understand why this person is in your life, or more importantly, why somebody left. Going back to my dad's death, why did that happen? Well, I wouldn't be doing this work had he not passed. And had it not happened exactly how it happened, I I wouldn't have a plethora of things. So if I've found so much comfort in thinking that, because my dad had such a rough childhood. I like to think that before we even got here, because we're part of the same soul family, my sister and I were to teach him unconditional love, because that's not something he grew up with. And I love just knowing that. What has he taught me so much, so much. And I have no doubt that even in spirit, I have probably even more of a protector now. I mean, he was a papa bear here. So that's kind of part of like like I said, he would have never left us if he didn't if he wasn't made to. He was here to protect. We were here to teach him unconditional love. And so it's just that idea that these people are put in our lives for a reason, or the domino effects that happen when someone passes. They're hard to see when you're going through it, nearly impossible to see when you're going through it. But when you look back on it now that it's been like, 3 years, 4 years, okay, this domino fell this way, and look at this. This domino fell this way, and now look at this. It's that kind of like invisible string theory, or, not sure, golden string or something like that. It doesn't make sense while it's happening, but you look back and you're like, oh, wow. It had one thing gone differently. Like,
And you were able to have that silver lining perspective once the grief has subsided, once
yeah,
all of that has passed. At least the intensity of it has subsided a bit.
yes.
Maybe there's a recognition of like, "Oh, wow, that came in because it led me to now have this community and to have the ability to help others
Oh,
heal."
I just
And yeah, and go
love it.
through and recognize their pain and be able to be an anchor, at least for a while they're with you in a session to illuminate a little bit, to bring a little bit of light, as you said. We just need someone to remind us, hey, I know you were going through a really, really hard time and this is really difficult, but there's learning, there's growth happening. It's all good and you're going to be okay. And you're going to come out the other end of this and be better for it. It's just hard to have that perspective when you're being hit with the grief, the isolation, all of it?
Yeah, it is, and it's like those moments of, like, just bringing through undeniable evidence that someone's loved one saw the crazy thing that no one else knows about. I get off of those, meetings that I'm just like, "I know that my dad and my mom see everything." I have so many examples, but I'm sure you do too. One that comes through is, I was connecting with a mom. My sitter was a mom, and in my mind's eye, I felt like her son was showing me the Christmas decorations. This was last year. The Christmas decorations that we had just put up, um, in our entryway. And another fun thing I love about working as let's get right in there, is how your evidence changes or how you receive it is, different. It's just fun. It's fun. It's spirit keeps you on your toes. And I know people are gonna think that sounds so weird, but it's like you'll get evidence one way, for so long, and then all of a sudden it changes, and what made me think of that was I kind of ignored seeing that because I had just seen it last night when my wife was putting up the Christmas decorations. And so you have this moment of being like, oh, that was just my brain because I just saw that. Well, it was one of those moments where I realized spirit was working with me differently because he showed me it again. And it's at that moment that you like becoming aware of what's mine and what's not mine. So I gave that evidence. And long story short, she said that her husband had just brought up the Christmas decorations, but she wasn't ready to put them up yet. And so I was just like, well, your son keeps bringing it through, and I get a lot of my stuff, is it clairsentiently, where I almost always say I feel like I get these like, oh, overwhelming feelings. He was making me feel like, you're gonna skip the Christmas decorations because you're sad he can't see them. But what I need you to realize is that if you're not living and you're not seeing the things too, he's still not gonna see them. What he wants more now than ever is for you to put up those decorations and enjoy the Christmas spirit. Because you're gonna be sad. You're gonna be sad if they're up, you're gonna be sad if they're not. But it's like if you're not putting them up because he's not here, he's here. And he wants you to put them up, and he wants you to be happy, and he basically, if you're like I said, if you're not living your life, on account of them, you're doing it wrong because they want you to live your life. They want you to have exciting experiences, and it sucks when you're in them and you miss them so much. Just bringing them to the front of your mind just putting that out there, like, "Oh, I wish you were here." They're there because it's spirit world's different. They're in just one thought away, and I wish more people knew that.
That's a reoccurring message we get from spirit. They want
Definitely.
us to thrive despite their physical absence, because in reality, their absence is just physical. It's not complete. It's not as if they stopped existing. And I feel like that's the biggest thing about mediumship and the most healing thing about mediumship, to bring the evidence that, hey, your loved one's still here with you and they're showing you to continue living your life is the best gift that you can give not only yourself but them as well.
Yeah, very much so.
How do you think developing your mediumship has changed who you are at the core of your being? Of like, okay, Kayla, this was Kayla. I know you said angrier, that you were angrier, but what else has it brought through? Do you feel you have more compassion for yourself as you're living your human life? Do you see yourself being more present? Give me some examples of how mediumship has changed your current existence as a human.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, you just hit on 2 big ones. Having compassion for people that maybe I don't understand, or, whether it be I know them personally or not. Doing this work, like I said, you realize that sometimes the way people can be towards you, it's a reflection of them. I don't I've heard that growing up, but I don't think it made sense until I've kind of been doing the work and understanding that people can only meet you where they've met themselves. And so having this kind of aerial view, I feel like I always call it, of what else can be true, and that this is their lesson. It's a reflection on them. So really I know I said I was angry before mediumship. I feel like I forgive a bit more now, where it's not taking things quite as personal, which with someone who has anxiety and stuff like that, that's kind of a big deal. Being present, oh my gosh, being present. Losing someone super important to you and then having a child is what a challenge to choose, she says to herself. But man, it made me present. You take more pictures because you realize that you really only have pictures once they're gone, or videos, but being present is really important, and it's still something I struggle with today because, again, of 707, that's also one of my, I don't get a ton of signs, I feel like, from my dad. We have, circumstances past his passing that have kind of had to kinda drug out the grief a little bit, and it's still ongoing, so I think some of the signs that I get, it does get so frustrating when you do this work and you're a medium, but you can't even get your own signs from your own loved ones. It feels ironic and feels do you experience that?
I've heard many mediums talk about this, which I think
Really?
it's really relevant that you're bringing it up. Because, like you said, sometimes our initial desire and intention to connect with spirit is because we want to have that link with someone that we personally lost. We sometimes are better reflections of other people's loved ones than we are of our own, because doubt comes into our mind and says, let's say, for example, I'm you and you're wanting to connect with your dad. Part of you is going to be like, is this just a memory that I had from my dad saying this to me? Or is he really
Yeah.
here now saying that to me? So it becomes, because we're emotionally involved, sort of like therapy, right? You shouldn't know your therapist on a personal level because there is too much attachment.
Some boundaries, I feel like, yeah, for sure.
But then, like you said, they find interesting ways of calling our attention, like the numbers on our
They
phone or
do. It's every day. I mean, for a little bit, I told my wife about it, and so I would yell out every time I saw it. And I wouldn't yell out if I was thinking about it and then looked at the time. Like, that one doesn't count. It's gotta be, you know, everybody has moments with spirit, and I think that's also kind of what I'm hoping that this gets out, is that everybody loves to do the number game where it's like, "Oh, I see 11 every day," or, whatever. It's like that moment where spirit just just like pushes, like just like nudge, you don't even you don't notice it. Maybe because it's not like a widely known, widely accepted thing, but it's like everybody has moments, with spirit. And I think we do it on a kind of a bigger scale, and so it's kind of like not widely accepted yet. Or what do you think? Is it
I feel
accepted?
like people are opening up now because of podcasts, because of the information that's out there. People are
Yeah.
at least considering it as a possibility. I think before, people used to look at mediums and psychics with a negative connotation. For a
Uh,
long time, there was this thing of like, how are they trying to lie or manipulate? And now there's a lot more awareness around, well, there's people that do it because they love and they're passionate about bringing forward messages from the other side.
there's a whole conversation that can be had about, religion and kind of the tabooness that is put on those that kind of connect with spirit more that's not in a church. So there's just a lot of like years and years and years of just bias and prejudice and all the things.
Do you think, because for myself, I had to go through that as well, because my grandma was very Catholic, and she was the one that went past also brought my awareness to mediumship. So it was almost ironic. I'm like, she's very Catholic, and yet she wants me to learn how to communicate with her now from this vantage point.
Yeah.
So it was when I realized these are just mind-made things that we
Yes.
label and stick labels, on things. This is good, this is bad, this is wrong, this is evil.
Yep.
And you have to overcome those yourself when you're going to do this work. Yeah.
I mean, I'm nervous about the, coming out of, the spiritual closet.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I have my own, biases and prejudices and stuff like that. So,
So why are you ready now?
because I want to be the light for people. I feel like I'm meant to be the light for people. I think I mean, I'm the weird one in my office. I love my coworkers so much. Like they deal with me. They deal with all my mediumship stories. I have seen changes in them because of my mediumship or the conversations that normally would not be had, but stemmed from a mediumship reading that I did, or talking about soul contracts, or just anything and everything. I can tell that I am doing something that is not normal where I am with people I grew up with and stuff like that. But I definitely feel like this timeline that we're on, she's a wild one. And I just feel like I need to do this work, and the healing that comes from it like has such a ripple effect. And I think we'll have a good reading. A week will go by, you won't really think about it again, but then you get this message that's like, I shared this with my mom and X, Y, and Z, and then it's mediumship done right, done ethically, done with good intentions. I mean, we haven't even touched on intentions. Like it is life changing because
Let's Sorry, go ahead, finish your thought.
it's life changing. It helps people not fear death. And in a Western society where personally, like death, I feel like growing up was something to be feared. I know we were gonna touch on my dad being Native American. Death was treated differently, where he was from, where it's like they pass away and you pay your respects and you keep a fire burning for like I think it's like 3 days, and you spend time with the body for a few days, and then you help them go on their journey back to spirit, back to creator. And it feels different with my mom's family, or kind of like how I grew up, because my we did not grow up on the reservation. My dad moved away from the reservation. There's such a fear of dying, and I think people that you shouldn't fear die. There's like I know there's someone that is saying that's like, don't fear dying, like fear not living, because this lifetime is so short. Like we feel like we're not going to see our loved ones in forever, but to them it's like a blink of an eye, because time is what is time? Time's linear. Or what, not linear, whatever. But like um I just want people to not fear the actual death and just realize that like all you have right now is now, and how you treat people is so important, and how you treat yourself is important. I mean, the power that we have, and I'm just like at the top of it. I mean, like there's so much to learn, there's so much to experience, and I just know that the power is in me. Power is in you. The power is not things you can buy. I talk so much I forgot the question.
You answered it, sorry, I just um, I wanted you to touch on the ethics of mediumship and what makes you feel empowered to share this now? What makes you feel ready to say, "I am a medium, and this is what I can offer"?
Honestly, the state of the world right now, like I said, so that's where I was going with it. I got way off on a tangent. I have to stay in the light because I want to be the light for people in my life. So my mediumship has brought so much healing to my sister when she has struggled really badly with my dad's passing and my mom's, but like especially my dad's. And so my experiences in learning mediumship and doing this work has helped her. And again, I think that's where I was going with like not fearing death. It's like they just changed their physical state. They're very much alive. So I'm big into science and like being ethical with it. Like science says energy cannot be destroyed. Well, I know my dad's spark was not destroyed. Very much so. I mean, like I said at the beginning, you have been one of the few that have actually brought through what I would call his essence, like his personality and his, just kind of what makes him him. It was a very personal reading, but it's also really important to me. So going back to ethics, I don't know if you get this, but sometimes if I'm not, there are days when I don't connect very well. Often, now that I've done this kind of work for a little bit, like I can kind of tell when I kind of want to practice. Like, don't think that my cup is quite as full as it probably should be right now. And so, but some days I kind of push through that. And again, you show up for spirit, spirit's going to show up for you. Maybe not as strongly as you'd like. It will. But I'll have people who I'm like kind of struggling with. They're like, what I would say the link is not very, very strong. And they'll be like, well, do they have a message for me? And part of being ethical with this work is never putting words in spirit's mouth. I don't want to get to the end of this life and have to talk to everyone's grandparents. Yeah, people not cop knocking on my door. No, thank you. And so I'm very honest in my readings. I don't if I don't feel it or see it or anything like that, like I don't give it. I don't give it. And I'm not here to give you this cookie cutter, very vague, but can resonate. I'm so sure with everybody kind of message. I don't want that to be given to me. I would rather somebody say, can we reschedule? Or hopefully one day, like, can I just give you your money back? Because this is not the experience I wanted you to have. I wanted you to have a better experience. So ethics for me, what's another way? I think with evidential mediumship, the sitter saying yes, no, maybe kind of the rule, the standing rule with that is also really important because I think if you are being ethical about your mediumship, sometimes you have chatty sitters and you can get a lot of information off of what it is that they give you. So being ethical is like, wait, please I want to hear all about your loved one, but tell me it at the end because I want this information to come from spirit. Whereas sometimes somebody just gets talking and you got all kinds of information from them and you can just build off that. And, but that's not ethical. So my goal with every single reading that I do is to just be authentic, be respectful. And sometimes like you really have to do the work to like make sure that your biases are checked. So you have to be very kind with your words. You have to take into consideration where the sitter is with their grief. And you don't know that. How 99% of the sitters that I work with, like I don't know them. I've never met them before. So you have no idea what that person's going through. So part of being an ethical medium is making sure that you are always, always leaving that sitter better than you found them. And I've actually started to include that in my little intro to them probably the last like 3 months because it's so important to me that I've had some really shitty readings. And what makes you feel worse than trying to connect with this person that they call themselves a medium, and you're left feeling like your loved one didn't show up or they're not there because that medium sucked. Like if I have a reading flop, I very much at the end say, I want you to know that this is I'm like I'm the vessel, or I'm the somewhat of a telephone. This reading, this experience has nothing to do with your loved ones not being, present and here with you all the time. It's got to do with me and how I am becoming aware of the information, and more importantly, how I'm translating it to you. That translation from spirit to sitter is so important because, it's a game sometimes on getting the yeses and the nos, but being ethical is so important. I have had some shitty readings and I've had some amazing readings, and just being presenting a very nice, kind, genuine person for them is so important to me. I know a lot of people say about the Long Island medium. I mean, we never know what's real and what's, as in like a TV show kind of thing, but like the going up to them out of nowhere and, being like, hey, I think your mom's here. Like, that doesn't really sit right with me just because you don't know where they're at.
I'm
And they're,
so glad you brought that up. Yeah, because like you said, if you had maybe been approached when you were first really grieving your dad, and someone came to you at a supermarket, let's
yeah,
say, and said, "Hey, I'm a medium, and I'm sensing your dad here, and he wants to tell you this, that, and that." You might have been so shocked and
yeah,
thrown off at that moment because of your grief and everything that you were going through, that it might not have been the best way for you to have heard from your father. Yeah.
yeah. Ethics can just, it feeds into everything, and like creating this safe space for someone to be upset. It's it's just I mean, so going back to Matt and Dana, I had a reading. It was the end of 22. So I was very much wanting to connect with my dad, but I think it was a perfect example of how grief, I was not ready, and I that was so hard then. But looking back, I know that I just was not ready, but the way they handled that with like telling me that it's probably grief, but also taking responsibility as the medium for not being able to, like, bring through information as clear as they would have liked, but they took the time to, like, explain everything. They rescheduled with me, like, 3 months later, which, that goes a long way, and that taught me such a lesson in, like, leaving the sitter better than I found them, and I've just brought that through ever since, so
And probably the way in which you now want to approach your own mediumship.
gosh, yeah, yeah. I mean, intention is everything. It's everything with mediumship, but it's also everything just in life. Your intention you have behind things. Um, and so my intention is to always leave the sitter better than I found them. Even if it's not the best reading in the world, or we don't get a ton of information, like I still want them to just know that their loved ones are always with them, always, always.
That's such a beautiful message and an important one.
Yeah.
Kayla, for those who are listening right now, is there anything you want to share about where you're going next with all of this, and anything else that you want to touch on, because I feel like this is an important time for you and your growth, and what you're doing right now with your readings is so powerful that I really want to make sure I'm giving you the platform to send whatever message you want at this point.
Appreciate that. I think getting just the information out about what evidential mediumship is, I think is like step one, because I feel like I'm going to have a lot of people in my life that have no idea what this is. So just on a very kind of broad scale, mediumship is just everybody comes in contact with spirit all the time. The only difference is between a medium and, Joe living his life is that a medium is intentional about quieting their mind, which is so hard to do. I mean, anybody who listens to this and has tried to meditate, just constantly. What's for dinner? What so and so has an appointment. It's hard to quiet your mind. So Mediums are just people who have done some of the work to learn how to do that and can be aware of what's mine, what's coming through and from me, and what's not. So my hope is, and I can tell I'm nervous about coming out, because you don't want to be judged. But I think there's more, I can do more good. I think if I allow myself to do it scared, do it with fear. It just feels I'm being so called to do that. And not to mention, I've had sitters not yell at me, but like, you've got to get going. The fact that I have had sitters yell at me and be like, why the fuck are you not more out there, And so someone told me if you're chasing for perfection with this, you're never going to find it. Hardly anyone calls themselves just a medium. It's almost always a developing medium. And why are we're always developing. When you are doing this work and you are giving this evidence, you're using your own toolbox, your own experiences. We gather that until the day we die, so we're always developing.
Totally, and I think all of us at one point struggle with that, and yesterday I was having a day of questioning myself and, "What is this right? Is this not right?" And then I swear, just like when we get information from spirit, I felt my guides step close, and I heard them say, "It's not about the perfection of the coffee cup, it's about the content and the willingness of the coffee cup to hold up the coffee." And I thought that was kind of weird, like a weird metaphor, right? But then 20 minutes later, I was on YouTube and this video came up from a medium saying, I was drinking a cup of coffee earlier and I was reveling in the perfection of this coffee. But then I realized it's not perfect, but it's good enough. It's the willingness of the medium, despite its own imperfections, to be a vessel for spirit. And I just had the biggest aha moment. And these are the ways in which our guides, our helpers, our loved ones, spirit show up too. What we think are coincidences are sometimes their way of
Pushing us.
sending us, reaching out, sending us a message, wanting something to get across, and it's funny because 'cause you're speaking about that, waiting to be perfect to come out will never happen because there's always improvements to be made, you know?
Yeah, yeah, man, it just goes back to ego. It just goes back to ego.
'Cause you don't wanna fail, you don't wanna fall flat in your face, you don't wanna embarrass yourself, you don't wanna show up for a reading and then nothing comes through. So, it's about facing that fear of, well, if that does happen, then I'll just have to tell my sitter, like, "I'm so sorry, but we're gonna have to try this again some other time." And, you know, let your ego take the beating, but it is what it is.
Seriously, seriously. Like, I can just tell that the ripple effect of healing that happens when, mediumship takes place, it's life-changing.
And it's worth your own bullshit.
Yes, yes,
It's worth you
100%.
facing your own bullshit.
Yes, because you don't know how many lives you touch, and, I grew up thinking I was gonna be a doctor, and then I quickly realized I don't wanna go to school for that long. That's not me. Um, but I found a way to heal others, just not in the way I thought I was going to. Again, soul resonance, like, my soul just I know that this is what I should be doing. In a weird way, I also know I wouldn't be doing it if my dad did not die. I have this feeling 2026, and especially 2027 is going to be kinda like years of enlightenment for, like, society. Like I said earlier, just the awareness of consciousness, I think, is going to be kind of undeniable, however that looks to people, whether I don't wanna go down the alien, hole or anything like that, but, like, um, just realizing that we are just not all there is, I think is so important now. So that is just why I want to live authentically as myself. And also I found myself, so like when you're giving readings and you're like you're kind of you're talking for spirit and spirit's talking through you. And when people bring up wanting to do, the things that make them shine or joy, I'm just like, do it. Like what are you it took me a minute to realize the same exact advice that I was giving with my whole chest, with my whole soul, my whole heart, I wasn't taking, so do what brings you happiness, do what brings you joy, be a kind person, and just do good. And so that I think is my goal with this is like I wanted to find a way to share what mediumship is to me, what I want to do with mediumship, the good that it brings. I know it's different for people, especially probably religious people, but I know that the good that comes from it is just like just unimaginable. To help people understand that death is not this end all be all. My hope is that people actually live their lives and live them knowing that their loved ones are just like annoyingly right here.
I
I hope that this helps people understand kind of what I do and why. I am so nervous to charge people. It stresses me out, but I also know that like it is an energy exchange and it is something I want to make into a business at some point. So that is going to be a challenge. Again, that's ego. It's all ego.
With that said, I would love for you to also give me your information that I can link down on the episode if anyone wants to get in contact with you, email you, communicate,
Have
schedule a
Facebook.
reading, whatever it is.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just excited to see the healing that I think conversations like this can have, but also the really emotional mediumship moments that we kind of go through that just have this huge ripple effect. I think it's so needed right now.
And for those who would like to maybe speculate more about this path for themselves, what advice would you have?
I would say that if you feel like something that you're being fed, something's missing, or, you learn about something else and there's something about it that feels right. That's intuition. That is like, y- we're supposed to do what makes us feel good, and I would say explore it. You don't have to follow it. I'm always saying, like I said, like being in a sponge state, like sponge era, just listen. If it doesn't resonate with you, leave it. Don't take it. But I think if you're feeling like you're wanting to start something like this, it's a ride. And I only say that because of the work you have to do yourself. No one else can do it for you. And that's like the shadow work of it all, dealing with your own negative emotions towards things. But just do it. Just show up. Just show up because spirit's going to show up for you if you show up for spirit. Whether it's me or somebody else can offer them that safe space. That safe space to just drop ego at the door and just try, When
Yeah,
you do it right, you're doing it ethically and your intention, most importantly behind it is pure and love and light. Nothing but good can come from that, you know?
that's true. And the intention is a very powerful thing, when
Yeah.
we put that out there and our intention is to bring in love, to bring in healing. The universe will find a way to work with our own abilities and gifts in our daily life in so many ways. So it's just about setting it up with spirit and being like, how can I be of service today?
Yeah, and
And
there's so many.
that could be any way. It could be with mediumship, it could be with helping someone across the street.
Yep.
It can be about sending an email when you think of someone. It's like, oh, I really need to check in with that
That's
person.
always a fun one. That's like, yeah, you think of somebody and then all of a sudden they're just like there, or there's so many little things you could do to just like tiptoe into intuition where it's like your phone buzzes. Well, close your eyes, try to see if you can figure out or like guess who that could be or who's calling you next or there's just so many little exercises you could do on your own to just like tap into that intuition. And then that's where it starts because then you're like, okay, so if I can do that, what else can I do?
Yeah. It's
We're
just
here about.
about the suspension of disbelief.
Yes,
It's
yes.
when you know that our soul is, how do you call it, undying? When you recognize that within yourself, 2 things can happen. You will no longer fear your death, which is amazing. And then second, you open yourself to the possibility of communication with those who are no longer here. Because obviously, if our soul continues in whatever form, why not? Why not
Yeah.
try to then communicate with that consciousness?
It's not like yeah, consciousness, like, it's not even necessarily you wanna connect with your loved ones. You open yourself up to actually connecting with God or spirit or source,
Mhm.
like, without this, like a church that's, like, telling you kind of how you should think or
Without the dogma
yes,
attached.
I couldn't think
It's
of, like, a good word for it.
it's
Yes.
pure love, it's pure connection, deprived of all the junk that comes along with sometimes, the dogma of the church is just that pure awareness that I am part of God, God is part of me. So why wouldn't I be able to connect in this way?
Yeah, and manifestation and all that kind of stuff, like, yeah, we do manifestation all the time. Every item is manifestation. It became a thought first,
Mhm.
you know? And then somebody put an emotion behind it. And then they kept thinking about it and kept, thinking about how it could be. Well, then inventions start, because then you took action and there it is. Like everything is a thought. Like, but if we figured out that power, oh my gosh.
Well, I'm so excited for what's coming up for you. I know you are going to manifest amazing things, and I'm just honored to be part of your journey.
Thank you so much for doing what you do. I mean, doing just what I want to do, which is like sharing the light. You're in your light and you're doing it, girl.
We're all doing it in our unique and special ways. And I think that source and our loved ones could not want anything better than for us to be authentically who we are in this life and share a light from there.
Yep, very true.
So thank you, Kayla. You're very special to me, and I am rooting for you.
I appreciate you so much. All right, girl. You have
All
a good
right.
rest of your night.
Mwah. Thank you. Bye.